Good afternoon, and ask for you to rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, ask Jason to come forward and provide an invocation.
Thank you, Tony. Let us pray. You've blessed us with friends, laughter, and fun. You've blessed us with a community that works together to enhance opportunities for the whole. And while there is still work to do, you've guided our hearts and minds to seek out ways to improve. You've blessed us with businesses like Raven, who seek out innovative solutions to help people all over the world. You've given us help to know wrong from right. You've given us so much. Lord, give us to a heart that is always grateful to you. Amen.
All right, you may be seated. Thank you, Jason Herbold. And we have guests amongst us today, and we want to welcome our guests, James Johnson, guest of Rotary. Thank you for being here today. Not a stranger to us, Mr. Dwayne Walk. Thank you for being here, Roman Rotarian. Jesse Schmidt, you have a guest? And do we have a mic for Jesse to introduce her guest? Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
I'd like to introduce Stephen Lindquist, my guest, son of Bill Lindquist.
Welcome, Steve. Tom Simmons has a couple guests. We're going to keep Sean busy going back and forth.
Fellow Rotarians, my guests today are Dave and Barb Omni. Barb retired from Raven, wanted to hear what Dan has to say. And I told her to just keep her comments under her breath. It comes up. And Dave Omni, her husband. Barb and Dave happen to play golf with my wife and I every Tuesday, and so far they're one up on us consistently. So it is what it is.
Thank you, Tom. Welcome, Barb and Dave. I have a guest, Nick Langrock. You can go ahead and stand. Nick and I have known each other since our days at Dakota State. He is Director of Marketing at Raven Industries, and excited to have Nick here with us today. Thanks, Nick. Tyler Tortson, you have a guest.
Well, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. With me today is a college buddy, a fellow Coyote, a personal friend, and then a longtime coworker with Senator Round's office with me, Joe Bliss. He's been a jack of all trades in our office. He's been in state before. He's done stints out in D.C., currently out in D.C., heading back this afternoon. And so I figured I'd have him come over and say hi for lunch. Go Yotes, yeah.
Thank you, Tyler. Welcome, Joe. And Kira Kimball, you have a guest.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am pleased to introduce you to Abby Vanderwerf, who is our Vice President for Employee Health Consulting.
Thank you, Kira, and welcome, Abby. Excellent. It is great to see guests, and we continue to have the opportunity to induct new members. So we appreciate you sharing Rotary with other leaders in your circle, and welcoming them to be here with us. I want to thank Team TSP, both Sean and Ron, for their work at the greeter's desk, and then also a couple updates here before we get to our program. Tuesday. And you'll see it's bolded in every email you get. Tuesday, September 14th, Rotary at Sanford International. So that's coming up here in a couple short weeks. So invite you to be there and hear from, we don't know which golfer it'll be yet, but we've asked for the best, and we're looking forward to hearing from Rotary at the Minnehaha Country Club. Next, we'd like to recognize the contribution to the foundation, Rotary International Foundation, by Dr. David Elson. He has achieved another level of the Paul Harris Award +1. So I would ask him to come forward and I'd ask you to join me in saying thank you to him for his investment in Rotary. Thank you, Dr. Elson. Next, I'm going to ask Michelle Lavallee to come forward, as well as Mark Niemeyer, for induction of our newest Rotarian.
Thanks so much, President Tony and fellow Rotarians. It's my pleasure to introduce Mark Niemeyer. Mark's our first Chief People Officer at Children's Home Society, and he's been with us just a little over a year now. Mark has an outstanding background in both human resources as well as operations, and has a tremendous wealth of experience from his time at Eli Lilly, the pharmaceutical company, and then Elanco, the pet pharmaceutical company that split off from Eli Lilly. Mark is a proud Iowa farm boy, so you know he has a great work ethic, and went to Dort undergrad and USF for his graduate school. So I'm going to let him tell you the rest of the story. I know he'll be an outstanding Rotarian, and I know you're really going to enjoy getting to know him. So please give a warm Rotary welcome to Mark Niemeyer.
Thank you, Michelle. Hello, everyone, fellow Rotarians. Once again, my name's Mark Niemeyer. It's an absolute privilege to be a part of this meeting here today. Michelle did a pretty nice job of giving you my background. I'll just give you a little bit more detail. Like Michelle had stated, born and raised in Northwest Iowa on a farm. My background, I've been associated with Sioux Falls for quite some time in this community. I'm married 28 years. My wife Shannon is a third grade teacher at Sioux Falls Christian. I have 2 children. One will be a sophomore. His name is Isaac at Augustana University, as well as my daughter Madison, who will be a senior at Augustana University. So a pretty active household. Very much appreciate this community. A little bit more about myself as it relates to my background and my interests: hunting, fishing, tractor pulling, those types of things from a farm kid. Professional experiences, like Michelle had stated, Eli Lilly most recently, operations and human resources. And it's just an absolute pleasure to be a part of Children's Home Society and its mission. Also an absolute pleasure to be a part of this organization and support its mission going forward. Thank you very much.
All right, well, welcome, Mark. People and our members, one of the 3 pillars here at Downtown Rotary, so it's fantastic to have a Chief People Officer join our club. So welcome, and thank you, Dr. Elson, once again for your investment in Rotary International. Now I will ask Rick Melmer and Dan Rykhus to come up and take a seat. And while they're doing that, I am going to share background on Dan. And then we'll go ahead and turn over the mic to Rick. First off, I'd like to welcome Dan Rykhus CEO of Raven Industries for the past 11 years. He assumed the position of president and CEO of Raven in 2010. Since joining the company in 1990 as an intern, Rykhus served in several capacities, including Director of World-Class Manufacturing, Operations Manager, Division Vice President, and Executive Vice President. Throughout his time as CEO, Dan has been instrumental in delivering value and long-term growth for the company through strategic M&A activity, international market expansion, and delivery of high-quality technical products and solutions from R&D investments. He has emphasized competitiveness through service, quality, innovation, and peak performance, and has made team member leadership development and well-being key areas of focus. In addition to his leadership at Raven, Dan also serves on the board of directors for Great Western Bancorp, Lincoln Industries, the Nature Conservancy, and SDSU College of Engineering. With that, I'd ask you to join me in showing Dan a warm Rotary welcome. Dan, Rick, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tony. Dan, thank you for being here today. We look forward to the conversation. I know the Rotarians do as well. And I'll ask Dan a few questions here, and then we're going to open it up and give you folks a chance to do some of the same. It's a pleasure to be involved with this conversation with Dan. I've known Dan for a lot of years, but the Leadership South Dakota program started 8 years ago, and Raven was an early adopter of that program, invested in it immediately, and probably more importantly, has sent to us 8 outstanding leaders. And so when Tony shared in your bio, Dan, that you folks are serious about leadership development, that's certainly true, and I've seen evidence of it. So congratulations on your efforts there. So before we begin the conversation, I do need to read just a kind of a disclaimer to make sure that everybody in the audience understands that it's no secret that Raven was recently purchased, and we're going to talk about that. Dan just has acknowledged that the purchase is not final. And so as a result of that, there are some important things that the audience needs to know that he may not be able to speak about today. So let me just share this very quickly. I want to let the audience know that due to certain Securities and Exchange Commission rules and other regulatory and legal restrictions, Raven's prohibited from discussing certain details of the transaction process. So if there's any questions arise of that nature, Dan will be able to sort of say, yes, I can answer that, or no, I won't be able to answer that. So you're going to be comfortable with that too, Dan?
Sure.
As we get moving, so great. Good. So again, thank you for taking the time to join us today. So a lot of folks probably think they know about Raven, but it's possible they don't know everything about Raven. So what we'd like to do to set the stage for our conversation today is give you a chance to tell us a little bit about Raven. So, sure. And that might be both you sharing, and also there may be a little video. So I'm going to let you kind of give us a little bit of an overview of Raven Industries.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to the Rotarians for allowing me to be here today to speak about Raven. We've enjoyed such a wonderful relationship with the community of Sioux Falls and the state for so many years. I see so many familiar faces, people I've served on various boards with in the community, people who've built beautiful buildings for us, and lots of a couple of retired executives here. So many people that have helped make Raven the company that it is. So thank you. It's hard to sit here and talk. I usually get up and wander around when I talk, but
you can go ahead and do that.
We'll give this a try.
Yeah.
So Raven, as some of you know, 65-year-old company, public company. And one of the reasons that we had to read the disclosure is there's a lot of nuance and regulation that comes along with being a publicly traded company. And there's a lot of responsibility and opportunity that comes with that too. So 1956, Raven founded on the notion of building stratospheric balloons to go to the edge of the atmosphere, taking sensors and equipment to measure cosmic rays and do all kinds of physics experimentation. That was Raven 1956. And today we continue to make stratospheric balloons all the way through our history for NASA, as well as for companies like Google, as well as now launching and managing our own constellation of stratospheric balloons with certain sensor technology. And the reason I tell you that is because everything that happened after our origin of a company in 1956 stems from that technology investment. So today we have 3 divisions. We have narrowed down, Ron's in the audience over here, from at one point we grew to 9 different divisions of Raven Industries. And back about 20 years ago, we got this notion that we have to get more focused on those divisions that offer opportunity for growth. So we narrowed down to 4 divisions, and then in 2010, we narrowed down to 3 divisions. The 3 divisions that we have today are all driven by technology. We've gone through this transformation from being a contract manufacturing company for many, many, many years to a technology-driven company over the last 10 or 15 years. Each of the divisions serve very different markets. Our stratospheric balloon technology is part of our Aerostar division. That's our smallest division, does about $50 million in revenue now, serving various customers, mostly aerospace and defense-related products, serving government customers and a few other commercial customers. Our engineered films division develops high-value film solutions with multi-layers for various barrier installations. These are very wide good plastic solutions covering, in some cases, silage covers or grain piles. In other cases, lining landfills, covering open pits where different materials are stored. So there's lots and lots of different applications. Radon barriers underneath commercial projects. So many different products serving a variety of different markets. And that's our second largest division as of now in terms of profit, our largest in terms of sales, and they do around $175 to $200 million in sales. And then the division that has been growing the most and has really been the focus of the company over the last 10 years is our Applied Technology division. And Applied Technology is our ag, electronics, and technology division. And we've started out way back in 1978 building basic control systems for agricultural sprayers. And we did that for a couple of decades, really refining that technology. And then at about in 2000 or 2001, we incorporated GPS into our product lines. And that was a game changer. And that allowed us to understand where in the field a piece of equipment exists. And with that knowledge, we can handle each acre differently, each square foot differently if we wanted to. And that changed farming. I noticed some of you have agricultural backgrounds and you know about this. Just as mechanization changed agriculture and the hybrid developments changed agriculture, so did the advent of GPS as well as other technologies that we brought to agriculture. So over the past 20 years, we've continued to refine that, and that is your Raven today. That's the primary profit driver and growth driver for the company today.
Would the video be of help to folks?
Sure. Why don't we run the video?
And you can maybe just kind of narrate it a little bit as
Yeah,
we
I'm going to
go?
have to stand up to see it.
That's fine. You get a chance to stand up. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
thanks. So in 2019, almost 2 years ago now, Raven, we made a decision to invest aggressively. Go ahead and play it if you can. To invest aggressively in what we call autonomy for agriculture. We made 2 acquisitions and we tripled our R&D investment in autonomy at the same time. And we developed these 2 applications that you're going to see. The first one here is what we called AutoCart originally, and now we call Omni Drive. And it's the tractor is, there's no one in the cab of the tractor. There is a person in the cab of the combine. And the technology brings the tractor alongside the combine and allows automated offloading of that material grain over to the semi. And we designed all the sensors and all the different software and the solution to make that happen. The second technology that we're bringing to the marketplace right now is what we call Omnipower. And this is a U-shaped platform. We acquired the chassis and the platform in 2019, and we've developed all the technology to make it work over the last 2 years. We are selling these into the marketplace today. If you're going to you're going to any of the large agricultural shows in the region, you'll see these demonstrated and displayed there. So these two technologies, along with our core precision ag technology, are what have really drawn Case, which I'll talk about here shortly, to Raven, as well as many other companies that have interest in this. That should be about it.
Great.
Is that
Thanks,
it?
Dan.
Okay.
That's a good summary. Thank
But
you.
before I go off, Raven,
I didn't see a tractor pull. Do you guys do anything with
We don't
tractor
do the
pulls?
tractor
Our new,
pulls.
Yeah,
I-
okay.
don't do that.
Been a long time since I've heard the word tractor pull, so yeah, right.
But so when we describe Raven, it's easy to talk about the divisions and the products and the markets that we serve. But what's, I think, as interesting is what we call the Raven Way. And the Raven Way is the thing that's really kind of differentiated the company from a lot of other companies that could make different products like we make. And the Raven Way is really starts with our purpose, and that's to solve great challenges. And when I described the stratospheric balloons from 1956, that's why I brought it up, because I believe our founders, they didn't say those words, but that's what motivated them. That's what drove them. And they were out to solve those great challenges. And I think as you look through the history of Raven and the different leaders and the different businesses, you see that common thread, that we were driven to solve great challenges. Right now, what we're doing with our agricultural products is help farmers grow more food and do it in a more sustainable fashion. And we believe all of us that come to work at Raven every day draw energy and passion from that purpose. Our values are evident, we believe, in the decisions that we make, and that's the only way that you get to have those values. You have to earn them with your behaviors and the choices you make and how you run the business. And then there's our Raven business model. And a lot of people have put a lot of energy into our business model, but that makes us unique. We're very intentional about how we compete. And it was mentioned in my bio that we focus on service, innovation, quality, and peak performance. But we also, one of the 6 elements of our business model is that we take seriously our corporate social responsibility. And this goes way back through our history. And it's an acknowledgement of our role in a community. And I know that's where a lot of the interest is here today is what's this going to do to the community? And I just want you to know that that has been a common thread all the way through, is a intentionality and an understanding that how we operate impacts the communities that we're in, and we strive to do our best in that area. So that's a little background on Raven.
That's great, Dan. Excellent. So we're just past 2 months, June 21st
Okay.
Of this summer. Raven was purchased by CNH Industrial. You
Yep.
kind of referenced it briefly for $2.1 billion. It's a lot of money. We will break the purchase down for these folks here and allow you a chance to sort of explain the process and how it all comes together. So first of all, who is CNH Industrial, and why would they be interested in purchasing Raven?
Sure. So when I think about CNH Industrial, think big red tractors and combines. I mean, that is the company. There's been headlines about it's a London-based company and there's Italian ownership and all these different things. But what Case New Holland is Case tractors and combines and other agricultural equipment. Now they've gotten into other on-highway product lines, but they're in the process of separating those two businesses apart. This is public. It's going to happen over the next 6 months. They're a $26 billion company, so very large. Raven's a $400 million company. So they're much, much larger than us. Agriculture equipment is their primary business. That'll be about $14 billion of their $26 billion is their ag equipment. They've been around, forever, as long as Case tractors have been around, way back, well over 100 years, I'm sure. I don't know exactly the history. Here's another thing that I think is interesting to this group, at least. Their CEO is a guy by the name of Scott Wine, and Scott lives in Minneapolis, not in Italy or London or anywhere like that. He's in Minneapolis. He was the CEO of Polaris for 12 years. He's a Naval Academy grad. As I got to know him through this process, I'm super impressed with his leadership and his passion for restoring the competitiveness of Case. And he knows that they've fallen behind on technology. They have great tractors and combines from a mechanical standpoint, but from a technology standpoint, they're behind. Raven has been one of their largest technology providers. They're our largest customer right now. And that's why we were so attractive to them, is that he's come to realize they've got a great product line and they're behind on technology. And just like every other business that you're in, technology is what drives these decisions now, is more so than ever on the farm.
So you folks have been connected for years. How long?
Oh, we sold our first sprayer controls to Tyler up in Benson, Minnesota. My former boss is sitting right over there, so he's going to fact check me on this one. I would say that would have been in the late 80s to early 90s.
Yeah.
And
So a long
Case
time.
eventually bought Tyler, and that became the Case sprayer. And we've been a good customer or a good supplier for them for a very long time.
So why does this sale make sense for Raven?
Well, for us, so we got to a point where we'd grown our ag tech business nicely. We invested in the autonomous platforms. We made 2 big acquisitions. We advanced our R&D investment on it, and we believe there was great growth long-term there. For us, after being into that process a while, you realize what the capital investments are going to be to make it a reality. And you also realize the channel requirements. And we're prepared and felt very confident that we had the capital access to execute our plan and we could develop new channels. But at the same time, we continued to get interest from multiple outside companies, not just Case, several, in what we were doing. And what we were doing is very, very unique and having some success. And there was multiple companies that wanted to own it. So at some point, rather than just saying, no, go away, no thank you, no thank you, that's standard response. But at some point, you have to stop and say, okay, well, we should at least listen to what they have to say. And so we did. And we rolled up our sleeves and took a harder look at what's net present value of the returns on our own plan, which we like very much, and compared that against the net present value of the other options. And with that piece of information, our board then considered, all the other things that you try to balance. As a public company, you do have to serve your shareholders first. You also have a responsibility to balance all the impact on employees, on customers, and on community. And we went through that process. And at the end, we felt like the best value for our shareholders, as well as the best impact net for those other stakeholders, was to go the route that we did.
And a lot of this has to happen kind of behind the scenes. I mean, you certainly can't publicly talk about this before it happens. I think a lot of people thought, hey, when the announcement was made, it was a complete surprise. And obviously, it'd probably been months or maybe years of conversation before that. So could you give us a little bit of an idea, maybe a time frame of when things really started to get serious until the time when the announcement was made? And then how do you keep it kind of behind the curtain so that you can have these conversations without everybody kind of aware of what's happening?
Sure. This is where we get into the area of things I can and can't talk about a little bit, but I'll give you whatever I think I can from a comfort standpoint. So, as I said earlier, when you're a public company that's successful, you're going to have incoming inquiries. That's kind of standard. Other companies, especially in these days, there's a lot of acquisitions going on, and companies are looking for investments that can help them realize their strategy. So that is kind of in the background happening all the time. And then you have our scenario where over the last 5 to 7 years, we've been resolving a lot of investing and fixing a lot of processes in our business. You mentioned our leadership and development. We came to realize we had to build up our human capital just as much as our financial capital in order to be able to execute our plan. Felt like that's in good shape. And all these things kind of coalesced around us deciding to launch this bold growth strategy in 2019. That was November of 2019. So then about 6 to 12 months after that, as the market started to sort of digest, oh, Raven is really onto something here. They've got this wonderful foundation. Now they're leading the pack on ag autonomy. That's when it started to get more serious.
Mhm.
There was a lot more substantial incoming inquiries at that point. And I would say over the last, from early this year, this calendar year to May, June is when kind of the process really started to become where we thought we should even consider this.
Mhm.
This wasn't the plan. I mean, this was
Right.
not the plan. The plan was to execute our independent path like we always have. And it came to a point where there's another option that has to be considered seriously. And that's the decision point that the board faced.
So June 21st, the announcement was made. When will the purchase become final?
Well, that's up to the regulators. And everything is moving along as we would expect at this point. We've said publicly fourth quarter sometime is when we expect that transaction would get final approval. Prior to that, it's up to the shareholders. September 15th is a shareholder vote to hear from the shareholders on their opinion on this. But assuming that we clear the shareholder hurdle, then the regulatory hurdles would probably come together sometime in the fourth quarter.
Could the shareholder vote impact the sale?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, shareholders could vote it down.
Mhm.
Possible.
Unlikely?
We'll just have to see.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So a lot of folks here are wondering the same question. And when you and I talked about this conversation, of course, a lot of it's going to be, how is this going to impact Sioux Falls?
Yeah.
Raven's been a staple in our community for a long time. How is the purchase and sale going to impact the city of Sioux Falls?
Sure. Well, it'll be different. I'm not going to tell you it won't be. We all know that Raven's been this sort of a institution in this community. We've engaged heavily as leaders in the community. We've supported the community financially and with volunteers. And we believe as thought leaders, we try different things as a company, and people see that, and sometimes it makes sense to them as well. So there will be some impact. But on the upside, I look at, okay, now this entity is going to continue to function here. What is Raven? And who knows? I don't know with certainty what will happen with Aerostar and films, but CNH is an ag company.
Mhm.
They're not a films or an aerospace and defense company. So those are likely to be eventually owned by somebody else, but they're rooted here. You're not going to move an engineered films division out of here. It's here. All the leadership is here, and the equipment is here, and the team is here. So that will, possibly be owned by somebody else. That's up to them. I don't know that with certainty. And our Aerostar division could have the same scenario, but again, deeply rooted here, and we'll do everything we can to have that stay here. With our Applied Technology division, the vision for CASE is, and I hosted an executive team retreat with both executive teams recently, and we talked about the vision. And the vision is for CASE to use the Raven technology as the nucleus that they build out from to solve their technology challenge across their entire platform. They've told me they expect to double or triple their employment in Sioux Falls over the next 3 years. I said, good luck finding the people. We have 70 open recs, and it's really hard right now. But they intend to double or triple their staffing here. And this might be helpful. Over the last 10 years, the payroll at Raven has more than doubled. And that's mostly because we've had a kind of a transition in our workforce. Yes, we still do manufacturing of these products. We do it right out by the airport, but we need a lot less manufacturing staff, and we hire a lot more engineers and different professional positions. We have way more, we're probably 65% to 70 professional positions now in the company, where it used to be just the opposite. So how will it impact Sioux Falls? The leaders at CASE use a phrase that we've been using lately, and I've shared with the mayor and a few others, and I hope he adopts it, because they came in and their chief digital officer, they have all these different positions. Their chief digital officer was meeting with us, and he said, you know, we're so excited about Raven and Sioux Falls, and we love your innovation, your speed. He said, we look at Sioux Falls as the West Coast of the Midwest, and we intend to double or triple our technology staff here. And this will become the entire hub for technology for their precision ag efforts. So for us, it's really exciting that way.
Awesome. Great. Love to open it up to some questions from the group. So I know we may have some traveling mics that need to kind of get around. So any Rotarians have a question for Dan? Yeah, we have one there.
So I'm just curious about where the upcoming frontier is. I suppose you could say that on an individual field with slopes, the light exposure differs and the water level in the soil differs. So are you planning a system where you can vary the amount of fertilizer and the type of hybrid seed that gets planted on each little area of the same field? And is your ultimate goal to have all the field work done by robotic controls?
Thank you. I'll take those in the order that you presented them. We've done what we call variable rate application for years and years and years. I think what you were getting at is more of a real-time variable rate application. So today and for the last several years, we can respond to soil sampling that's done ahead of time, or prior year yield mapping, or any kind of variable where we can create a map of what's the potential on that acre based on what nutrients are required, or what's the yield history on that acre, or whatever other variable. Create a map, bring that into our system, and then go across the field and apply fertilizer or herbicide at different rates. We can seed at different population levels by square meter, basically, if we wanted to. You're really constrained not by GPS, but by your implement mechanical structure. So we do that. Now, the new frontier is to not have to do all that sampling ahead of time, create a map, bring it into your system, and then execute it. The new frontier is to have your sensors on your machine, and while you're passing through the field, be able to sense the differences in the conditions and then make adjustments to your planter, or your sprayer, or your fertilizer. And that's where we're making incremental progress that way. The problem is usually you still have to slow down, and farmers don't want to slow down because they've got a lot of acres to cover. And nobody wants to slow down. They want to go faster. And so that's one of the challenges. But with everything, as the technology progresses, we move right along with it. On the autonomy question, it's a great question, and that was, do we envision robots coming out at night and doing all the farming? And the farmers don't do that anymore. It's a many year, perhaps decades of progression towards that. There's what's called levels 1 through 5 autonomy. Level 5 autonomy in agriculture is that, where you hit go from your office and out come the machines and they do the work. We are a long ways from that being practical. Level 4 autonomy is where we're headed right away, and that is the machine that you saw that I called Omnipower, where there is no cab. It's more of a field edge operation. So a person with a laptop or some sort of control device does what's called a path planning plan, and sets out the machines to go do the work. They're at the field edge and able to control the machines as required. And there's multiple machines in the field that are linked to each other and able to do machine-to-machine communication and operate in concert, if you will. And that's happening now. But it's a huge leap from level 4 to level 5 autonomy.
Thank you.
Hi, Dwayne Walk. Is the company that's purchasing you, are they a public company?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell a little story about Raven and hot air ballooning? Because most people in here probably have no idea.
Let's see. Well, there's a lot of product liability insurance with it, but that's probably not what you're. Sure. Raven developed the first what are considered sport hot air balloons, and had one of our early leaders, I believe, fly across the English Channel as the first manned flight across the English Channel. We made hot air balloons. We were the dominant player in market share in at its height, a very small market. We're talking hundreds of units a year. And for many, many years, our product liability insurance premiums exceeded our total sales revenue, not profit, our total sales revenue for hot air balloons. But there were some wise decisions made a long time ago that were, it took courage. It's easy to laugh and look back at it now, but it took courage to decide to get out of hot air balloons, because there's a very loyal following of people that really enjoy those products.
And you folks had a presence in the Macy's Day Parade for a lot of years, making some of the display balloons there. Are you still doing that? Are you out of that business?
We are out of that business as well. We wound that down 2 or 3 years ago now, but we made all the parade figures except for one, which I think we'd made around 100 of them at the time that we wound it down.
Steve Sikorsky, we know that there's a lot of coyotes in the room, but we know that Raven has supported a wonderful program at South Dakota State where they're teaching all this technology to the undergraduates and so forth, so that they can, when they're students, is there a major like that up at South Dakota State? And can you talk a little bit about that program and your support of that program?
We knew how hard that question was for you to ask, Steve, so nice job.
Thank you. South Dakota State established the first 4-year program in precision ag in the country, and it's pretty impressive. The thought leadership there by Barry Dunn and others, and we've made a major investment to support the facility there. It'll continue to be called the Raven Precision Ag Center. The Raven name will continue on within CNHI in some capacity, referencing their technology at a minimum. I've introduced personally Barry Dunn to the CEO of CNHI and their executives. And CNHI, I should have said this earlier, they have a tremendous amount of respect for how we operate as a company. They've been a customer of ours for a long time. They've been a recipient of our technology. And they have a couple phrases. One, they're really insistent that they don't screw up the Raven formula. They know that we know how to run a business, and we do it pretty well. So they're insistent that they don't mess that up. So we take opportunity to define the Raven formula. And part of the Raven formula is our connection to the community. And they've been very sensitive, as we've told them that community is very, very important for our Raven formula. It's how we succeed. And they understand that. And I believe that they're intending to uphold that. Another part of it is our relationship with SDSU and School of Mines and some other schools. And I wanted to make sure that Barry had a chance to meet directly their top leaders and build that relationship. And they're committed to that ongoing relationship.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. This is great. Yes.
Hi there. I'm Dave Tingle, and a little bit of an aviation buff. And there's a website that I follow called Flight Aware. From time to time, I will see HBAL, hot air balloon, Project Loon, up there at 58,000 feet, that type of thing. I'm guessing though they seem to originate from the location of the Raven plant up north. Can you speak a little bit about what those are, what they're doing? I mean, they seem like they're aloft for a week or two at a time, and then they kind of go all over. And
Sure.
talk a little bit about that. if you would. Thanks.
Absolutely. I mentioned my first comments were that's the origin of the company, is designing and producing and launching these high altitude research balloons. So they're not hot air balloons. They're these balloons that'll go to 65, 70,000 feet. Some of them go to 125,000 feet. But the ones that you're seeing now, this is a pretty, I mean, this is the kind of story that just makes Raven people want to come to work every day. So we decided we want to develop a product with a sensor package that can monitor the wildfires across the West. And so we've spent the last couple of years doing that. So this year we decided we're going to launch them. And these are just, this is what's called internal research and development, IRAD. There's no federal contract behind this. This is us deciding we're going to develop something that will have value. So we launched a couple of these balloons with the intent to send them out to Idaho. This is about 45, 50 days ago. One of them didn't make it. We recovered it a day later. That's fine. Usually we have way better than a 50% rate, so don't dwell on that fact, please. So we took the other one out to Idaho with the sensor package. It was taking imagery over the fires in eastern Idaho and Oregon for quite a while. We brought it back. We can navigate these balloons by raising and lowering the altitude to move them where we want to put them. And it's amazing how much control you can have over these. So we brought back the Idaho balloon, launched another balloon out of Sioux Falls a week and a half ago, had those two balloons communicate, and the second balloon had better technology on it that could download the live images, or the images, pulled the images off the first balloon, downloaded them to us. We have them. We have imagery of the fire, of monitoring the fire progress. And then we sent both the balloons out to the Dixie Fire over in California, and they've been collecting imagery over those fires. So when you say, what are these HBALs and what are they doing? It's that kind of thing. It's developing technology that we think will have a lot of utility for the Department of Interior, as well as potentially other customers.
Other questions? How long would it take a balloon to get from here to California, here to Idaho?
Yeah, so when you're counting on the winds, it's not a straight path. So it could take 2 or 3 days if we got lucky, or it could take a couple weeks. If sometimes you have to go the opposite direction to get wind to where you can go where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, Joel.
Dan, thank you for all the information today. I wanted to take you back to a topic you addressed or touched on briefly, which is staffing. We're all looking at the numbers here in Sioux Falls, and we're thinking about where all these people are going to come from for your growth, as well as all these new companies. Tell me a little bit about your experience in the past several years. What have you done to try to recruit high quality, high performing people? Have you had to open offices in other places to draw people to those locations? What do you think the future of recruitment and staff and professionals here in Sioux Falls is going to look like?
Sure. We don't have a magic formula. If I did, I wouldn't probably share it anyway. But we have 600 people in our applied technology division now, and that's the division that CASE intends to double or triple. So that's another 1,200 people, maybe more. For us, it's been a lot of blocking and tackling, and we have what we think is an outstanding intern program. We have 60 interns this year. We typically have 50 to 60 interns. We have an objective to hire at least 50% of those interns at the end of the summer, knowing if they're eligible. Some of them are juniors, so they're not eligible. But we hire them at the end of the summer so that we can lock them in. So interns is a big part of it. The culture that we maintain, we think, is very, very important, that people have choices nowadays. And the work that we do and the culture that we maintain is key to it. We have looked and we are looking at other places where we may be able to establish a center of operations. For us in our ag group, it would be a consolidation of operations that we have scattered around Ames, Iowa, and Wakarusa, Indiana, and Austin, Texas, and we have small groups of people in lots of different places. It would be consolidating those people and then opening up a single other facility in another metro area in the south. So that's part of the potential plan. But the hub is here, and you can have these other pieces, but the hub is here. I mean, several of you have been in our facility. One of our differentiators is we still believe that people coming to work and collaborating in a physical space is really important and is one of the ways that we have been successful and will continue to. Sure, we have to support some offsite, but really not that much, and we haven't gotten that much call for it yet. But the other piece is making sure, and this is really Raven specific, but for us, for our engineering, and I'm talking mostly about attracting engineers because that's really the governing part for us. Having the ability to design and then iterate, go to the field. We have the facility up in Baltic that's 200 acres, state of the art, support for product development there. Go to the field, iterate, come back, refine your design, work with marketing. We've brought in customer-driven events are hugely important to us. So that whole ecosystem for how we design is very attractive to engineers. So facilities, I mean, we built a beautiful facility. We believe that people want to come into work. We still believe that. We didn't have to talk about that when we decided to build it. It was just kind of expected. But we look at it as like when you're recruiting college athletes, they want to come in and see a place where they can see themselves being successful. And we try to create spaces where young engineers can see themselves making a difference in the world and being successful. And so those are a few pieces of it, but that's not a what can I do tomorrow thing. Those are all kind of building block, grinded out fundamentals for how we address it.
Yeah. We have time for one more question. Michelle?
Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you.
So exciting on the transaction. I have a couple of questions. The first one, can you talk about what kind of a competitive advantage this would give to Case in terms of acquiring Raven? And secondly, what's the impact on the other OEMs who are also your customers? I'm thinking John Deere and the others.
Yeah.
And then finally, what are you going to do with all those snowmobile suits and Kenny Rogers gears? Inside joke, right, guys?
Oh, that's a good one. So before I forget about that one, so a lot of you have been around Raven a long time, and you probably remember us for some odd products that we made throughout the years. So hold on to those snowmobile suits and those puffy Kenny Rogers jackets, because they're going to be worth a lot of money someday. Probably are now. So other OEMs, the combined entity it has plans to continue to supply the other OEMs. That'll be, up to Case, obviously, as they go forward. But AGCO is, so there's three big OEMs in the U.S. Deere is the biggest, Case is number 2, AGCO is number 3. And AGCO has a technology line that they sell to Case right now. It's a planter control system, best planter control in the market. They put it on their own white planters, and they sell it to Case to go on the Case planter. So there's precedent for technology sales from OEM to OEM. And I know that Case intends, they paid a lot of money for Raven, and they want to see sale of our existing technology through their dealer channel as well as to other OEMs as a part of the return on investment for that. It's business as usual for us right now, and we're working hard to retain all of our existing customers, and so far that's gone really well.
So final question.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with you?
Oh,
What are your thoughts? What are your plans? If you can share, and if you can't, you just tell me,
yeah.
stay out of your business.
It's not fully determined at this point what my role will be. I mean, it is a public company to public company transaction. So they have a CEO, Scott. He's great. He's going to be wonderful for them. So it won't be being CEO. I can assure you that. But they see value. I mean, some of my executives are here and they really enjoy the team that they've worked with, and they see a lot of value in our team. And we bring an energy and a speed and an innovative approach that they don't have as much of that they want in their organization. So there's going to be big opportunities for some members of my executive team within the larger case. There's going to be opportunities to run Raven, the remaining Raven here, for other members of my executive team. And as far as my role goes, it'll be to be determined over the next couple months.
Yeah, exciting opportunities for you.
But
in the
I'm good
future.
with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been 31 years at Raven after starting as an intern. We intended to run the company forever.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a different outcome for that than that. I don't mean that I intended to run it forever. I intended to run for a few more years. But it's a different outcome than that. But there will be opportunities for me to help them realize their vision and helping them take market share and restore their technology and their place in the ag world, and being able to, let me tell you one more thing. I know you're trying to wrap
No,
us
that's
up,
good.
but
Great.
when we purchased DOT in 2019, the autonomous, the U-shaped platform, the reason we did that, so people might be scratching their heads saying, why would Raven buy an ag equipment company? You're a technology company. And the reason we did that was because we needed to control the speed at which we could express our technology into the marketplace. That was the rationale. We needed to have our own platform because the big OEMs were going too slow and they weren't going to adopt it fast enough. And we had a vision for changing this. So when you look at, if that's your rationale for that acquisition, and now you view yourself within the case ecosystem, and they're begging for technology to make their equipment more productive, and they know they've got to catch up on technology, all of a sudden we've got an entire tractor line, a combine line, planters, seeders, tillage equipment, forage equipment. We've got an entire ag line to express our autonomy through. And for us, that's super exciting. I mean, it's such a shorter path to changing agriculture for the positive than we had under our own path.
Yeah. Well, we all know a little bit more about Raven than we did an hour ago. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on the sale and best of luck to you. Let's thank Dan Rykhus for his.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Dan, again for joining us. And with agriculture as our #1 industry in the state, it's important to us, and we wanted the business community to hear what the plan was for Raven in the short term and the long term. And glad to hear that going to continue to be a pillar in our community. So thank you, Dan, for that. Next Monday, Senator Rounds will be here for a moderated conversation about what is going on in DC, in our world, and how that will impact us here in South Dakota. With that, Rotary is adjourned. Have a great week.